So I always hear atheists talking about the burden of proof. The theist only has the burden of proof, this, that, and the third. And it's not true. At least if you take the traditional form of atheism, the traditional definition of atheism is the claim that there is no God. Now, it is true that a lot of atheists try to say that, well, I'm actually an ah-theist. I'm just without theism. But in that case, it kind of trivializes atheism at that point because what differs you between an agnostic? Same thing, isn't it? So if someone says that, I'd really just treat them like an agnostic. And it's important if you're gonna engage in atheists, it's important to get this point across because a lot of atheists they weasel debate. They argue from a position without holding, and when you ask them to really ask them about the position, they do this, song and dance about how, well, I'm actually an atheist. I'm not really making a claim, this, that, and the third. So at that point, if they say they're not trying to make a claim, just treat them like an agnostic, because at that point, that's what they are. That's how I deal with all the atheists who talk about the burden of proof all the time. Just treat them like an agnostic. Now, there are a lot of atheists also who do say, yes. For example, Grandma Oppie says atheism is the claim that there is no God, or there are no gods. In that case, it becomes much easier to engage them because they have to try and prove their position. I know a lot of them say, oh, well, it's impossible to prove a negative, or something like that. And that's not true. I'm going to make another video about that. But in any case, the burden of proof is on both sides, assuming the atheist is actually making a claim. If the atheist is some atheist, then he's not making a claim. That is true. But at that point, is he really an atheist? I mean, it's like the naturalist. It's like, I consider naturalists like basic blonde chicks who say they have a glue analogy. They just want to be special. Because what's the difference between naturalism and atheism? There is no difference, really. It just sounds different. It's like a way of being special. That's the same way I feel about atheism, right? I mean, um, it's just idiosyncratic, trying to be special. Basic blonde chick with a glue analogy. That's how I view these quote unquote theists. And in that case, because that goes to the question of how do you debate an agnostic? And it's a bit difficult debating agnostics because, to be honest, most people don't hold an agnostic position. They either fall on atheism or theism. And you really are just going to have to try and convince them. It's about all you can do because, again, with these atheists, they don't present arguments against God's existence. They just try refuting your arguments, and some of them do try. It's funny because I was watching Zindler versus Craig, and Zindler throughout the whole debate was trying to, pull out this atheism position, right? Atheism. I'm an atheist. I'm atheist. I just lack belief. This, that, and the third. And then in his last speech, not his closing speech, but his last speech, it might have actually been his closing. I don't recall exactly, but he literally, he literally just brought up an argument. Well, the evil and suffering argument, which is not a good argument, but it's funny. That was a funny moment because he basically abandoned his position of theism. And in Craig's debate with Christopher Hitchens, you saw something very similar. Hitchens was pulling out this theism position, and then he said later, and he said it's not a belief. It's not a belief. Then later he says, I'll have the gall, I'll have the nerve to say that God does not exist. That's a belief. That's a claim. You've abandoned all theism at that point. Now you're an atheist. An atheist. God does not exist. So really, I think this is a trivial point, to be honest. Because it's really a point that just wastes a bunch of time. Again, glue analogy, basic blonde chick, but also, you're going to end up spending a lot of time discussing the burden of proof. Burden of proof, burden of proof, oh my god, the burden of proof, oh my god, the burden of proof, what's the burden of proof, blah, 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 blah. As a theist, I have no issue taking up the burden of proof. I mean, obviously, I'm making a claim here. But the atheist, they try playing the game with the burden of proof. I mean, I see a lot of atheists talking about how Christians, or theists, they always shift the burden of proof. They want to shift the burden of proof all the time. Burden of proof, burden of proof. We don't really care about the burden of proof, to be honest. We just really want, what the theist side really wants is just the other side to make clear what their claim is. Because you talk to 10 different atheists, you get 10 different claims that they're trying to make, which makes it very hard to engage them. Half the time when I'm talking to an atheist, I don't know if they're an Ah-Theist or an Atheist. And like I said, atheism just trivializes atheism, because at that point there's no difference between atheism and, frankly, any other form of non-theism. Same as agnostic, same as a naturalist, same as a regular atheist, actually. I mean, they both share the property of not believing in God or any form of theism. So in any case, those are my comments on the burden of proof discussion in atheist versus theist discussions.